Hey everyone, it's Joe from greenlightsound.com, and today we've got a look at a new plugin from Waves, CLA Epic, a new reverb and delay plugin which models Chris Lord-Alge's favorite delay and reverb units on his favorite settings, though you can change the settings yourself, and his SSL console effects workflow and the routing combinations he does on the console, of especially having delays going into reverbs. That makes this plugin kind of very flexible and powerful. So just to quickly go over the controls of this one, we've got an input panel over here, and we've got input gain meter. We've got a mute panel for each different effect, our 4 delays in blue and our 4 reverbs in red. And we've got an input gain fader. If we jump over to the output section on the right-hand side, we've got our output meter here, a mix knob, and a representation of what our mix percentage is, and our output fader. Right now I have it set as an inline effect on the vocal channel itself, so that mixes down to about 30% or so. So then we go down into the effect fader section itself, and we've got 4 different delays on the left side and 4 different reverbs on the right side. The reverb or delay that is highlighted, in this case delay 1 reverb A, will have its information in the panel up at the top. You've got a fader for the output gain of each processor, our 4 delays and 4 reverbs. You got a solo, a mute, high pass and low pass filter on every channel, which is really nice. This numerical value on the top represents the fader position, but also if I'm using high pass and low pass filtering, will give you your values for the filters. So this section kind of represents a pared down or slightly simplified version of what Chris Lord-Alge has on his SSL console with a combination of sends and buses. He has faders that can control his different effects. So the 4 delays on the left side and what they're modeled upon starts with delay number 1, the tape delay, which is based upon a Marshall AR300 tape eliminator, a digital tape echo unit. Delay number 2, the throw delay, is based upon a Line 6 Echo Pro. Number 3 is our slap delay, which is a Lexicon PCM42. And the crowd delay is kind of unique to Chris Lord-Alge. This is an Ursa Major space station, which adds dimension to instruments and guitars. Our 4 reverbs. Reverb A is Chris Lord-Alge's go-to vocal plate. That is the Lexicon 480L digital plate. Our room is actually a combination of different reverbs. He actually uses 4 different reverbs for the room setting. I think Waves went with the first 2, but he may use a Sony DRE2000 and a Brocasti M7 on the marble room setting. Those 2 bust together. He also uses an EMT246 and a Yamaha Rev 1. That's kind of like your snare drum plate or your instrument reverb. But I think the room in this case is probably the Sony and the Brocasti kind of drum and instrument room reverb. The C reverb is a hall reverb, which is an Eventide H3000 on its dense room setting, which is kind of unusual given that it's more of kind of an effects unit than a reverb. And space is our AMS RMX16 non-linear reverb, almost like a gated reverb. There's a modulator on each effect as well in the top right corner of the display, and that controls rate and depth. The rate is the speed, how fast the cycle is completed of the modulation, and depth is the amount of modulation, how much the signal is changing. And you can see there's kind of like 4 sections of the outer band here, from barely filled in to bright as you go along. Each section is low depth, low medium depth, high medium depth, and high depth. And within each band, the rate varies from 1 to 100. So if I wanted low depth and low rate, I'm down at the bottom of this band. If I wanted low depth and high rate, I'm pushing this up as I get closer to the top of the band. If I wanted high depth with low rate, I'm at the outer section here, kind of right at the beginning of it. If I wanted high depth and high rate, pushing it all the way to 100 there. So into some of the individual controls on the tape setting here, you've got 2 different taps, and you can set it to milliseconds here, from 1 to 5,000 milliseconds or 5 seconds. You can set it in milliseconds yourself, or you can sync it to the session BPM and have note values. The feedback percentage controls the amount of signal being sent back to the input, or really the amount of delays that occur. And this offset's kind of unique. It changes the values of each one to make it kind of more stereo sounding. If they're 2 in sync, they sort of move them apart from each other. You can see each numerical millisecond value changing a bit, up to 20% difference here. So for example, here they're both 1/8 notes. And if I have just this delay going, and if you leave, it's really mono. So I can move this offset a bit. It'll change the 2 settings. And if you leave before the morning, creating a more stereo effect. Our second delay, the throw delay, is very similar to tape, but it only applies to certain parts of the song, often a word or a phrase of the lead vocal. And you have this unique trigger control here, When trigger is on, like it is now, the button next to it opens up the delay for the throws or the certain words or phrases you kind of want that delay on. So for example, if I wanted just the last word of this phrase. And if you leave before the morning. I just clicked it on for that one word and it only had the delay happen during that one word. And like I said, that can be automated. When it's off, it's just constant delay. And if you leave, and operates just like a second delay unit. But with this on, that actually works like a true throw. On a real SSL console, you'd kind of just automate the fader and do the throw that way. The slap delay, our third delay here, is kind of like a tape slap, and this VSO 7.5, 15, or 30 IPS if you want to run it like a real tape machine, or you could dial it into your specific millisecond value that you want, or sync it to the BPM. Feedback's the same as all the others. The last one here, crowd, only has one control besides the modulation, and that is this slider from tight to wide. So as you move this slider more toward the wide side, the tap delay time increases. So to get a sense of what that sounds like. And if you leave before the morning, just leave a note beside my bed. Just get that kind of short, almost like room reflection out of it. Over to the reverb side of things, we've got plate, room, and hall, and all three of these kind of have the same controls. You've got the reverb time, the pre-delay you want to dial in, and this RT low and RT high. This RT low is low frequency damping, so lower is kind of more articulate and higher is warmer sounding. And the RT high setting, which you can move around between different settings for here, higher is going to be a little bit brighter sounding, so you can kind of control the tone of the reverb. The last reverb's a little bit different, this space control, because it adds this decay time here, so you can make that reverb tail shorter for nonlinear or gated sounds. The final spot I want to look at is the real power of this plugin. That's the routing panel. We can send each delay to any of the reverbs we want straight out of the plugin output, or a combination of both if we'd like to. So for example, if I have my tape delay here, I could send it to my plate reverb, that's A. I could send it to the room. Let's say I want to skip the hall and just send it to the space reverb. I click that one, it's sent to those three, and also the output. I can get rid of the output there and just have it go to those three reverbs as well. So you can do it kind of in serial or in parallel. And I can do that with each of the delays here. And if I click this triangle right here and open this up, I've got sort of a send level for each reverb. So if I'm sending to A, and I want a little bit less of that send in here, sending it to C, and I want a little bit more, I can control each send that way. And this box next to the output controls how much is going straight to the output level. So you can see how all these controls combined can make this thing really powerful. So now what we're going to do is just go through the sound of this plugin. We're going to pick some different presets here. We're going to go with the first preset here from Lord-Alge, the vocal number 1. And if you leave before the morning. To the next one, vocal number 2. This one has tape, slap, and crowd in it for our delays, and plate and room for our reverbs. And if you leave before the morning. Next one. And if you leave before the morning, just leave a note beside my bed. You can see that has all the effects engaged. Some are routed differently. And if you leave before the morning. Next preset, CLA number 2. And if you leave before the morning. Next one, CLA number 3. And if you leave before the morning. So totally different, not as long of a reverb in that one. And if you leave before the morning. Number 4. And if you leave before the morning. Slap man. It's going to be slap delay. And if you leave before the morning. It's a nice slap sound. And if you leave before the morning. Next one. And if you leave before the morning. Big landscape. And if you leave before the morning. And if you leave before the morning. Let's go to a different preset category now, past the CLA category. Let's see how many there are. Let's go with Greg Wells here. And if you leave Nice long one there. Down to Michael Brower, he's got a vocal slap preset.
And if you leave before the morning.
Just a really short slap in that one. This is a Chuck Ainley preset.
And if you leave before the morning.
Bring that mix down a bit.
And if you leave before the morning.
Lots of long delay into reverb on that one. Vocal space.
And if you leave before the morning. And if you leave.
So let's just say you like that vocal sound, you like that short delay, but you wanted a little bit more reverb on it. It's really easy to do. You go to your hall reverb, unmute it. You can either do that for the main control panel or over on the actual fader itself, and dial that one in to taste.
And if you leave before the morning. And if you leave before the morning. And if you.
And it gives you a lot of options all within this one plugin window. So really easy workflow. Rather than trying to set up 4 different reverbs and 4 different delays, routing them to each other and using the faders within your DAW, it's all housed in this one plugin here with some excellent digital delays and digital reverbs modeled from Chris Lord-Alge's collection. One of the best parts of it is when you just go to the full reset here, it's all the CLA's favorite delays and reverbs on his favorite settings. You can kind of just blend to taste, mute and solo as you like, move the faders. You've got some sort of built-in great sounding equipment right within this one plugin. So highly recommended here, CLA Epic. If you have any questions or comments, let me know in the comment section down below. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't done so already so we can keep you in the loop as to what's coming up next, and I'll see you in the next one.